In those days I was on 12-inch spacings. So we had the header fronts 35 foot wide, so we had 35 foot rows. So in 2006 we had early rain in April, so we had reasonable soil moisture, but it was drying fast. So we got in there and went like Billy-O, as you do when you're seeding, and we're trying to get our seed depth at that 30 mil. But with the wheel tracks, we had 6 rows every 10.7 metres, so the header wheels were taking out basically 3 of our rows. So that's what we were losing. So what happened in that circumstance was we got good germination across the width of the seeder, all except these 6 rows every 35 feet. They were sown too shallow because there was depression there. They didn't come up, I think it was about a month and a half after the rest of the crop emerged. We finally got some rain and up they came. I estimated at harvest the losses there were about 60% of the rest of the swath. So to do this is not, high-level economics, this is back of the envelope stuff. So you got 6 rows every 10.7 metres, so 6 rows out of 35 rows is 17.5%. So as you work your way down, average yield in that year was 2.2 tonne on the barley, 10.5. So you get 0.2, 0.3 tonne per hectare loss, barley at $165 at harvest. The loss I had that year was $30,400, and that's on one crop. So one aspect of our crop, a couple of thousand acres of barley. Now when I was getting ready for this presentation, I thought I'll run those figures again. That's what they would have been this year on the similar loss. Barley at 250, obviously a higher yield, $84,000 loss on one barley crop. So, I might not be the sharpest cue in the rack, but even I could see that I had to do something. So we had to change. Now, to change, we had to get the harvester into the picture. We had to do it because we had random harvester tracks, and at that stage we were sowing on 50 feet, spraying on 100, and harvesting on 35. So we bit the bullet and just chopped everything back to 35 feet. So we got the harvester finally into the picture. So now the harvester's there, and as you can see from that picture, at this stage we haven't even addressed the residue spread. So that's what we're on now. So we've got permanent tracks. You can see where the guess row is, and the green lines are the cereal rows. So the harvester dividers go right down the middle of the guess row. And something I'll touch on a bit later is, if you can imagine there the cereal rows, we grow a lot of legumes, so we interrow our legumes. So we've got a legume row in the interrow. So just keep that in mind. So we've got a legume row at 35 feet, or 10.67 metres. So that's our seeder setup. We've got a daybreak disc, similar to Brady's, but we painted a decent colour. So that's the old sprayer. So the sprayer's in the lines, and then now the header's in the lines. This is something we had to address to get away from those offset fronts. We never ran an offset front, but obviously our auger wasn't long enough to get that 35 feet into the chaser bin, so that's the way we overcame it on our system. So 10.67 or 35 foot setup, that's the way we unload, so everything stays on the tracks. And the drivers know that if they want to stay on the best side of the boss, they better bloody stay on those tracks. So that's another picture of this year harvesting faba beans. I think my son's driving the header, and we've got the best chaser bin driver on the place driving the chaser bin. That's my daughter Samantha. So girls make excellent chaser bin drivers. Again, there's another one a couple of years ago in barley. So that's what we get left with, or that's what we hope we get left with. We get left with reasonable length straw, well spread, evenly spread over the whole lot, and you've got your controlled traffic lines that you do all your work on. But what comes with this is that. Same paddock. That's a header track, it's not a spray track, so that's a 4-inch depression just from harvest traffic. Big headers are heavy, big chaser bins are heavier. Same paddock 2 years later. I don't know if it's the same track, but that's a header track. So that's canola this year sown into that depression. There's another one about where it is last week, and you can see that's, you probably don't, I don't know if you can read that, but that's a 5-inch header wheel depression. But you can establish crop in the bottom of those. That's the alternative. You know, like compaction everywhere, no seed establishment. He's not going to get even stand there. This is another one. The bloke in the room will recognise this one, but I pinched this one off Andrew's computer last night. Harvesting across the normal travel. That's the price you pay in the following year. Okay, so we need to really spread our residue, as Phil talked about. I just can't emphasise enough, you must spread the residue as best you can. We've spent years trying to get it right. We're getting closer every year. That's not my harvester, that's Chris Drum's harvester with a Redicop, doing a pretty good job. This is something we set up a couple of years ago. Thanks to the late Owen Brownlee, we put spinners on the outside, and that did an excellent job in dry stubble. But in legumes where you get a few stalky weeds, we block up those side things to get it out to the spinner. So in our situation, that didn't work. That was the best one I could find from this year. I didn't take a lot of photos over harvest, so we've basically got a power cast on that now, and it does a pretty good job. But as Phil said, we have to tweak it all the time. I'm not sure what that one is. Anyway, so you've got to get the spread right. Oh, hold on. Yes, I do know what that one is. Trial work. One of the great features of a controlled traffic system is we can turn the whole farm into a trial plot, because we can change whatever we put down the seed tubes in each individual run, and we know that we're going to harvest the exact same run. So every row can be a trial plot. Now, obviously, we don't do that. But in conjunction with our agronomist Andrew Neal, we have done a lot of trial work over the last 3 years, and personally it's been the most powerful thing that we've done with an agronomist, because it's on our place, on our soils, in our long-term no-till stuff. So and with that trial work, we've been able to pretty much work out our nutrition package to pick our own, to meet our own requirements. Now this slide, can anyone pick out what's wrong with this slide? Or what's wrong with the emergence there? I'll give you a clue. That picture's taken going the opposite way from what the picture we took in the trial. Anyone pick it up? Yep, Evan's got it. Now this was in I think it was a 1.8 tonne barley crop, so we're not talking about a lot of residue here. So then we've laid these trials down the following year, and the first time we've looked at them, Newley and I have been out there, and we're walking across, and Newley's going, "Oh, you've stuffed up your seeder. It's sowing heavy on one side." And I said, "Well, that can't be the case, because when you move over to the next row, it's still that side, so we're going up and back, so that can't be the case." So the simple fact was, that made the difference. A little bit of chaff, a little bit of straw coming out of the chopper just gave us that little bit of extra moisture when we sowed that crop. Look at the difference in the emergence. So that's why the spread coming out the back of the machines is so important. That's tiny amounts of residue. Imagine what it was like this year if you don't get your spread right. Another problem with spreaders. This is a great mate of mine who's got a Rob Ruel. He's 30 feet, does a very good job of spreading his residue, but on this particular occasion the residue is going too far and hitting that side wall of uncut crop. That's what it does with a disc seeder trying to go through that heavy residue layers. Another slide where just to show the impacts of compaction on emergence.